My fiancé and my coworker toasted to framing Malcolm while drinking in my study, my house. So I watched, recorded everything, and when she texted, "We need to accelerate," I sent their whole scheme to corporate fraud. I wasn't supposed to be home that early. My name is Malcolm. I'm 37 years old, and I live in Tempe, Arizona. I work as a regional project manager for a solar tech firm that's been trying to scale aggressively over the past year. Stress is part of the job. Travel too. But that day, there had been a last-minute company-wide outage drill, a simulated blackout scenario. We were told to power down and go home without logging anything until further notice. It was meant to test our response time. No one expected it, not even Candace. I pulled into the driveway just after 4, thinking I might surprise her with dinner or maybe take her out. She always liked the Thai place near Mill Avenue. I didn't even text first. Just parked, unlocked the front door, and walked in as quietly as I could. What I heard stopped me cold. The living room was quiet, but down the hall in the study, I could hear voices, hers and someone else's. Male. Familiar. Once the audit clears, Candace was saying, her voice low, sharp, "We'll finally take full control." I stayed still, 1 foot inside the hallway, heart hammering in my ears. Leo's voice, my coworker, my buddy, followed. "You sure he won't catch on before then? It's almost too perfect." Then came the unmistakable clink of glass. "To framing Malcolm," Leo said, like it was some kind of sick toast. "To plausible deniability," Candace added with a quiet laugh. My chest tightened. I stepped back, slowly, carefully, until I was outside again. I closed the door softly behind me. My hands were shaking. I drove a few blocks away, parked under a tree, and just sat there with the AC running full blast, trying to breathe. Candace and Leo. Plotting. Framing me. I didn't know how much they had already done, how close I was to being hung out to dry. All I knew was I had walked in on something I was never meant to hear, something that could end my career, my life as I knew it. After about 30 minutes, I pulled myself together and drove back. I walked in loud this time, jingling my keys, acting like I was exhausted from the fake lockdown test. "Babe," I called. "You will not believe the drill we had to sit through today." Whole building went dark. They're simulating internal sabotage or something. Candace popped out of the study with a forced smile and wide eyes. "Malcolm, I didn't think you'd be home until late." "Wait, didn't you say you had that emergency lockdown test?" I interrupted with a tired grin. "Yeah, surprise ending. They cut us loose." She laughed, high-pitched and a little too loud. "Well, I'm glad you're safe." That sounded serious. Leo had already slipped out through the back door. I pretended not to notice. I nodded like everything was fine, like I hadn't just seen my world cracking apart in real time. Inside, I was calculating. If they thought I was blind, I'd give them darkness, and I'd start watching from the shadows. After that night, nothing looked the same. I didn't sleep much, just stared at the ceiling while Candace breathed evenly beside me, her back turned like always. Part of me still wanted to believe I'd misunderstood. Maybe it was about a different Malcolm, maybe I'd misheard. But I knew better. I'd seen the way she flinched when I walked in, heard the way her voice shifted. The next morning, she made me eggs. Over easy, with avocado toast and black coffee, my usual. She hadn't cooked for me in weeks. "You okay?" she asked, brushing hair behind her ear. "You seemed off last night." I shrugged. "Just the drill. Caught me off guard." She smiled too quickly, like she needed to believe that. "Well, you're home now. Safe and sound." But nothing about it felt safe. Not anymore. That week, the signs started piling up. On Wednesday, I came home from work and found her printing something from my office printer. She jumped when I walked in. "Oh hey," she said, shuffling papers. "Didn't think you'd be back this early. What are you printing?" "Just contracts. For that new supplier Leo found. He wanted to compare terms." She smiled like it was nothing. But I saw my personal budget spreadsheet in the printer tray. The one I kept offline, backed up only to an encrypted USB I'd plugged in last month. "Next time, just ask," I said casually. "Of course," she said. "Sorry." Later that night, I found my tablet propped open on the coffee table. Candace never used it. She thought it was too clunky. I picked it up out of habit, intending to check the weather, but the browser history caught my eye. Internal audit whistleblower protection. How long do internal finance investigations take? Shell companies tied to corporate bonus structures. I swallowed hard. My pulse spiked. She wasn't just covering her tracks. She was building an entire narrative. And I was the main character in her little corporate tragedy. 2 days later, Leo showed up again. He had on his best, "I'm just here to help" face, the one he wore during quarterly presentations and barbecues. "Hey, Malcolm," he said, all smiles, patting my back. "Candace told me about that supplier proposal. Figured I'd drop by and help her prep some documents." "Sure," I said. "Make yourself at home." They disappeared into the study. I stayed in the kitchen, sipping beer and pretending not to notice the low murmur of voices, the occasional laugh, the way the door stayed half closed. Leo used to text me directly about contracts. Now he didn't even look me in the eye. That weekend, I took Candace's car in for a service. She hated dealing with mechanics. While cleaning out her glove box, I found a second USB stick. Same model as mine. Plugged it into my laptop that night. Inside were screenshots of old project files from my personal folders, budget drafts I hadn't shared, and a document titled Malcolm, Risk Profile. I stared at the screen, cold washing over me like someone opened a window in January. She was setting me up, and I knew, right then, she wasn't working alone. This was Leo's playbook too. They were going to hang me out to dry the second that internal audit came back clean. But not yet. I closed the file, wiped my fingerprints from the USB, and put it right back in her glove box. Let her think I was still in the dark. Because now I was watching. Every move, every lie, and I wasn't going to blink. I waited 3 more days before making my move. It had to be someone discreet, someone who'd keep their mouth shut. I reached out to an old contact, a retired corporate attorney named Evelyn. I met her for coffee at a quiet place on the edge of Scottsdale, the kind where everyone wore sunglasses indoors and no one asked questions. "You said this was personal," she said, setting down her mug. "It is," I replied. "But it's also very, very corporate." I laid it out in simple terms. No names, no identifying details. Just a hypothetical. What would someone do if their fiancé and a coworker were scheming to pin a multi-million-dollar embezzlement on them? Evelyn didn't blink. "First thing, you shut off every leak. Financial, digital, emotional. Assume nothing is private anymore." She told me to transfer any critical assets to a secure account, preferably offshore or under a trusted relative's name. She said to move fast, but not obviously. And most importantly, get them to think they're winning, she said, sipping her espresso. People don't look over their shoulder when they think the trap is already sprung. That night, I told Candace I had misplaced a sensitive folder at work, something with confidential figures. It wasn't true, but it gave me an excuse to shut down our shared access to the cloud drive. "I just can't risk any compliance issues right now," I said. "Legal's been breathing down our neck." Candace looked up from her tablet. "Of course. That makes sense." The next morning, I pretended to forget my login password on purpose. I even called the IT desk in front of her and requested a reset, adding a new layer of encryption while I was at it. Later that day, I transferred our joint savings, every last cent I had personally contributed, into a private account under my sister Dana's name. She lived up north in Flagstaff, worked as a school counselor, and stayed out of anything even remotely messy. "You good?" Dana asked when I called to explain. "Not really," I said, "but I'm getting there." That weekend, I installed a smart thermostat and 2 new security cameras in the apartment. Candace thought it was just me finally caving to her Pinterest board home upgrade dreams. She even complimented me on finally catching up with the times. "Now we can tell Alexa to dim the lights when we're arguing," she joked, running a hand through my hair. The cameras weren't for safety. They were for proof. The living room, the hallway outside the office, and one facing the kitchen, all discreet, all synced to a private backup drive she didn't know existed. Leo came by again on Sunday. They stayed in the study for hours, talking in hushed tones. When I brought in snacks, they both smiled too wide. "You're too good to us," Leo said. I forced a laugh, just trying to keep the ship afloat. But inside, I was already writing the final chapter. If they wanted me to be the fall guy, fine. Let them build their little trap. Because now I was documenting every nail. I knew they trusted each other. But trust is fragile, especially when you start shaking the floor beneath it. It started with a small spark. I waited until a Thursday night, when Candace was finishing dinner and Leo was still at the office. I casually mentioned that her ex, Darren, had messaged me on LinkedIn. He was asking about you. I said between bites of pasta. Said you looked incredible in your new profile photo. Called it your interview outfit. She blinked. "Darren." I nodded. "Yeah." Said he always wondered how things ended between you two. She tried to play it off, gave a tight laugh, but I saw it, the flicker in her eyes. A little too alert. "He's harmless," she said. "Probably bored." That night, I accidentally sent Leo a text meant for Candace, or at least that's how it looked. "Malcolm, that outfit you wore Tuesday? Total knockout. Almost made me forget what I was supposed to be working on." It wasn't too obvious, just vague enough to plant the seed. I watched him from my office window at work the next day. He kept checking his phone, chewing his thumbnail. He didn't come by our apartment that week. Progress. But I wasn't done. On Monday morning, I created a fake phishing email using a spoofed company address. Sent it to my own inbox, made it look like someone had tried to access my credentials. Subject: suspicious login activity, possible internal breach. I opened it over breakfast with Candace sitting across from me. What the hell? I muttered, angling the screen just enough for her to see. Someone tried to get into my work account at 2:13 a.m. last night while I was sleeping. Candace froze mid-sip of her coffee. Maybe it's a glitch. Yeah, maybe. I shut the laptop and left it on the table. Let her stew in it. By Wednesday, Leo was back, twitchier this time. More territorial. He brought over Thai takeout and practically glued himself to Candace's side while they sorted through contracts. She kept shooting me little glances, checking if I was listening. I wasn't. I was pretending to be sick. On Friday morning, I told Candace I'd been having headaches, chest tightness, trouble focusing. All of it true, just not from stress. From rage. She rubbed my shoulder, a little too eager. Maybe you should take some time off, she said. You've been burning out. You could do that wellness program at headquarters, the retreat in Sedona. I faked hesitation. You really think they'd let me just disappear for a few days? I'll talk to HR, she offered, eyes gleaming. Say it's affecting your work. Perfect. Let her think I was unraveling. Let her think she was still in control. Meanwhile, Leo's text history was starting to tell a different story. More emojis, fewer jokes. He was getting reckless. That weekend, I forwarded a copy of the fake phishing email to my own work account security team, anonymously. Added just enough breadcrumbs to trigger a quiet inquiry. If she was worried before, now she was paranoid. Every crack I made between them was deliberate. Because love built on lies collapses fast, and all I had to do was keep nudging. One whisper at a time. I left on a Friday. No warning. No note. I just packed a small duffel bag, turned off my phone, and drove north toward the Mogollon Rim. Left everything behind: the apartment, my work laptop, the GPS in the car, even the fake symptoms I'd been milking all week. I needed to see what would happen when I disappeared. When someone you're planning to betray vanishes, do you panic? Do you celebrate? Or do you realize too late that maybe they were never as clueless as you thought? By the time the sun set, I was sitting in a cheap cabin overlooking the pines, sipping coffee I made on a rusty stovetop. It was quiet, cold, and the best part? I wasn't getting any calls. Because I had powered everything down. Back home, Candace must have been unraveling. And I didn't have to guess. I'd see it all later. The security cameras I'd installed weeks ago were still live, quietly feeding footage to a hidden drive connected to my backup laptop. I set them to trigger recording on motion after midnight, just in case. Saturday afternoon, the calls started. 6 missed calls by noon. 10 by nightfall. Each voicemail more frantic than the last. Malcolm, where are you? Just call me back. Babe, I'm starting to get worried. This isn't like you. This is serious, Malcolm. Leo says you haven't checked in. Call me. I didn't respond. I just watched. By Sunday morning, the worry turned to desperation. And then, predictably, Candace cracked. At exactly 11:12 a.m., Leo showed up. He didn't knock. Just let himself in with the key she had given him probably weeks ago. He looked around, said something I couldn't hear, and walked straight into the study. The kitchen camera caught the conversation. Candace, he's been gone for 2 days. No word. Nothing. Leo, you don't think he found something, do you? Candace rubbed her temples. He's either losing it or playing us. Leo pulled a bottle of something dark from the cabinet and poured a glass without asking. If the documents go missing, we're still safe, right? She didn't answer. He leaned in. Right? Candace muttered something I couldn't make out, then walked out of frame. I paused the footage, rewound it, listened again. If the documents go missing. They were cracking. Sunday evening, I strolled back into the apartment like I just returned from a walk around the block. Dropped my bag by the door, yawned for effect. Man, that was exactly what I needed. Candace was curled up on the couch with a throw blanket and a fake smile. There you are, she said, standing too fast. I was so worried. You didn't answer anything. I needed to unplug, I replied, stretching. Get away. No phone, no laptop, no stress. She nodded, wide-eyed. Of course. I'm glad you're okay. She hugged me, too tight, too long. That night, she texted Leo from the bathroom. Candace, we need to accelerate. He's slipping out of view. I saw it all from the synced camera feed. They thought they had time, but I'd already started pulling the rug out from under them. Monday morning, I filed a police report. Identity theft, technically false, but only for now. I said I noticed unauthorized transactions and suspected someone close to me had access to my accounts. The officer nodded, took the statement, and told me to freeze everything until it's sorted out. Exactly what I wanted. By noon, every shared credit card, joint account, and household auto-pay line was locked up tight. When Candace checked her phone around 3 p.m. and saw the first decline charge, she didn't say anything, but I saw the way her eyes flicked toward me like she was measuring how much I knew. Something wrong? I asked. Just, bank app's glitching, she muttered. That night, I pretended to get an email from my bank and acted confused as I read it out loud. We've locked your account due to suspicious activity. Huh. Candace's face went pale. Wait, the shared one too? I nodded slowly. All of them, apparently. Some identity thing. She stood up. We just paid rent. What if it bounces? I'll figure it out, I said, already turning away. Probably just a formality. But it wasn't. It was a trapdoor, and she had just walked out onto it. The next morning, Leo's company car, the slick black electric SUV with his name on the parking pass, vanished from the office lot. Repossessed. I knew, because I tipped off the internal finance team anonymously. Posed as a concerned temp who noticed something odd with the leasing records. Corporate doesn't need much to dig when it involves assets. They were already looking for an excuse. I just gave them one. Later that day, I watched Leo storm into the building, red-faced, demanding answers. Someone from accounting tried to calm him down. Didn't work. I recorded the whole thing on my phone from across the lobby. When I got home, Candace was pacing the living room. I can't access the electric bill account, she said. Or the gas. Malcolm, what the hell is going on? I told you, I said, keeping my voice even. Identity theft. The bank froze everything. I'm working on it. She didn't buy it. Not fully. But she couldn't prove anything, either. That weekend, we had a company gala, black tie, rented hall, free drinks. I showed up late. Candace had gone early to support Leo, while he recovered from the whole repo embarrassment. They looked uncomfortable when I arrived. She reached for my arm, gave me a performative smile. There you are, babe. Everything okay? I smiled back. Better every day. An hour later, I saw it happen. Candace grabbed Leo by the elbow and dragged him out to the side patio, not far enough from the crowd to avoid being seen, but far enough to think they had privacy. She was furious. He was yelling back. I couldn't hear them, but I didn't need to. Everyone could see it. The public argument, the slip in composure, the cracks in whatever they thought they had. When she shoved his chest and stormed back inside, I turned to the bar and ordered another drink. That night, I opened a secure browser and logged into a whistleblower hotline hosted by our company's third-party ethics group. I created a new case file and uploaded screenshots, budget inconsistencies, mirror documents, suspicious edits to old invoice logs, all anonymously submitted. Each one led to her. Each one was a thread I'd been waiting to pull. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about leverage. Candace thought she was building a case against me. She had no idea I was already dismantling hers, from the inside out. A week after the gala, I let the next piece fall into place. Over breakfast, I casually opened my laptop while Candace scrolled through her phone. I made sure she could see the screen, an email, bolted and unread, from a fake cybersecurity consultant I'd created using a burner Gmail and a stock photo. Subject line: urgent, suspicious login detected, outside device. I clicked it slowly. Inside, a brief note. Malcolm, we noticed an unusual login to your company account using credentials tied to a secondary device. Please confirm if this was you. If not, we may need to escalate to internal investigations. Candace leaned over, trying to act nonchalant. What's that? Security thing? I said, frowning. Someone accessed my work account last week from an unknown IP. Her eyes darted from the screen to me. That's weird. Was it your phone? I don't think so, I replied. They're saying the access came through a shared device. Maybe from here. I let the silence stretch. She didn't respond. Just went back to sipping her coffee like it tasted sour. Later that day, I invited Leo out for drinks. Said I wanted to clear the air, reconnect. Just two coworkers blowing off steam, I told him. No Candace, no stress. He agreed, a little too quickly. We met at a bar halfway between our neighborhoods, a place dim enough to hide in and loud enough to mask nerves. I bought the first round and acted casual. You doing okay? I asked. Things have been tense lately. He shrugged. Just pressure, man. Audit's coming, budget's a mess. Upper management's circling like vultures. I nodded, letting him talk, letting the second drink hit his bloodstream. Then I went in. Candace told me she's been stressed about the audit, I said. Said something about old invoices being flagged. But I told her not to worry. Leo's grip on his glass tightened. She promised to take care of it, he muttered. Said I just had to stay cool. I let that hang in the air. What did she mean by that? I asked, playing dumb. Leo chuckled bitterly and waved a hand. You know how she is. Always got some angle. Told me she'd cover our tracks, that no one would look twice if you took the fall. There it was. I had the phone recording the whole thing, tucked neatly in my jacket pocket. He kept rambling, emboldened by the booze. Words slurred, thoughts scrambled. Every sentence more damning than the last. When I got home that night, I clipped the audio down, trimmed out the bar noise, and exported the file. Then I opened a secure email window, the same anonymous inbox I'd used for the whistleblower report, and attached the recording. 2. ethics@corporate-audit.org. Subject: confidential, internal fraud confession attached. I hit send. By morning, it would be sitting in the inbox of our company's HR fraud division, complete with timestamps and a link to Leo's profile. The final domino was tipping. They thought they were running the con, but I had just turned the con into a confession. 2 days after I sent the recording, everything shifted. Candace was summoned to the corporate office for a compliance interview. The kind of meeting that didn't come with an agenda, just a request for presence and a reminder not to bring a lawyer. She played it off when she got the email. Probably just routine, she said with a shaky smile. Sure, I said, pretending to scroll through my phone. I'm sure they're just checking boxes. That evening, she came home early. No makeup, no earrings, hair pulled back in a messy knot she only wore when she was rattled. She didn't say anything. Didn't even look at me. Just went straight to the bedroom and shut the door. They'd shown her the audio. I was sure of it. By the next morning, she was officially placed on administrative leave pending further review. Leo? I heard through office gossip that he stopped coming in altogether. One guy said he saw him clearing out his desk after hours. No goodbyes. Just gone. That night, I sent Candace a text. Malcolm, meet me. Neutral ground. 6 p.m. Griffith Park lot. Come alone. I sat on the hood of my car and watched her pull in right on time, her SUV slowing like she expected me to disappear. She stepped out slowly. She looked smaller than I remembered, not physically, just less. Her posture didn't carry the same weight. The mask had slipped. I thought we should talk, I said. She folded her arms, defensive already. You set us up. I shrugged. I gave you rope. You tied the knot yourself. I never touched company funds, she said quickly. I never forged anything. You didn't have to, I replied. You handed Leo the playbook and let him run the ball. That's called conspiracy. She clenched her jaw. I reached into my coat and pulled out a small black notebook, the one I kept in the safe behind the bookshelf. I handed it to her. What's this? Every time you access my documents. Every login. Every file name. Matched with server timestamps and surveillance footage. Page 72, that one's from the night you printed my budget sheet. She flipped through it, growing paler by the second. You've been tracking me. Since the night of the outage drill, I said. When you toasted to framing me. She didn't deny it. Just stood there, breathing hard. You're going to send this to legal? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. No, I said. Not unless you make me. She narrowed her eyes. I'm offering you a deal, I said. You sign an NDA. Resign from the company. Disappear. No more contact. You walk away with your record intact. No police, no charges. You just vanish. And if I don't? I looked her straight in the eye. Then I send everything, the audio, the notebook, the footage, to the police fraud division. And I swear, Candace, I'll watch you in cuffs and sleep like a baby. She didn't speak for a long time. Just stared at the notebook in her hands like it had started burning. I underestimated you, she said finally, her voice dull. Everyone does, I said. But only once. She nodded, just once. Fine. You win. I shook my head. This wasn't about winning. She looked up at me, confused. This was about survival, I said. You tried to erase me. You tried to turn me into a ghost. But ghosts? They haunt. Candace walked back to her car slowly, the notebook still in her hands. She didn't say goodbye. And I didn't need her to. I already had what I came for. Freedom. It didn't take long for everything to collapse. Candace resigned the next morning. HR called it a mutual separation, but we both knew the truth. The NDA was signed, notarized, and quietly filed. She packed a single suitcase, left the apartment by noon, and moved out of state within a week. She didn't say where. I didn't ask. Leo wasn't so lucky. The internal investigation finished digging through the data logs, expense reports, and mirrored spreadsheets I'd left for them like breadcrumbs. They discovered manipulated bonuses, fake vendor contracts, and backdated approvals, all tied to his login credentials. The fraud division sent out a termination notice and a formal report to legal. By month's end, Leo was scrubbed from every database. No farewell email. No LinkedIn post. Just gone. The company never made it public. But around the office, the whispers traveled fast. I was labeled resilient. A team player. Calm under fire. No one asked what really happened, but my name came up for a promotion. One of the directors pulled me aside and said, not many people could have weathered that storm, Malcolm. I nodded, smiled, and said thank you. I didn't tell him how close I came to burning the whole place down. Back home, the apartment felt different. Lighter. Candace's things were gone. Her throw pillows, her diffusers, the yoga mat always left out but never used. The closet was half empty, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel watched in my own living room. I sat in silence for a long time that night. No camera feeds. No recording backups. Just quiet. I didn't realize how much I missed quiet. A few weeks later, I started therapy. Not because I was falling apart, but because I needed to make sure I never let someone like Candace into my life again without seeing the signs. The therapist asked me what I hoped to get out of it. Peace, I said. He nodded like he understood. Maybe he did. One Saturday afternoon, I met up with an old friend from college, Claire. We hadn't seen each other in years, but she reached out after seeing my name on the company website's leadership page. We got coffee, caught up, kept things light. No flirting. No expectations. Just two people reconnecting after life had dragged them in different directions. It felt good. Safe. Real. I didn't tell her everything. Not yet. But when she laughed at one of my old jokes, the kind I hadn't told in ages, I realized how long it had been since someone looked at me like I wasn't broken. Back at home, I cleaned out the last drawer Candace used. Found a receipt from the night Leo's car was repossessed. She'd circled the wine she ordered, the same bottle we shared that evening while pretending everything was fine. I folded it, tossed it in the trash. That was done. Now, when I walked into my apartment, I didn't brace for a lie. I didn't check shadows or camera feeds. I didn't feel hunted. I sat down, turned on the TV, and let the silence settle. And for the first time in a long, long time, I breathed freely. Not just because the worst was over, but because I'd walked through betrayal, manipulation, and fire, and I still had my soul intact.